Good evening. Welcome to Loveworld USA News. I'm Barbara Sam. First, a quick look at the top stories this evening. U.S. military hits Venezuelan drug boat in southern Caribbean, president says. Georgia judge orders Fani Willis to redo Trump case record search after inadequate methods found. South Carolina asked Supreme Court to hold ruling allowing transgender student boys' bathroom access. Space Command headquarters to move to Alabama, reversing 2023 decision to keep it in Colorado. Appeals court clears EPA to freeze $16 billion in climate grants, rebukes lower court. And now to the news. President Donald Trump has announced a strike by the U.S. military against a drug-running vessel that departed Venezuela, announcing during an Oval Office news conference that forces had shot out a boat, in quote, in the southern Caribbean carrying a lot of drugs. He offered no details on the platform used or the unit involved. The action comes amid a broader counter-narcotic surge in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific. Legally, U.S. maritime interdictions rely on the Maritime Drug Law Enforcement Act and international agreements that allow pursuits on the high seas, with rules of engagement permitting forces in self-defense or to end a hostile act. A lethal strike implies the vessel either posed or imminent threat or ignored lawful orders to halt and attempted to evade or engage. The announcement also underscores rising tensions with Caracas. The Maduro government has long been accused by U.S. authorities of tolerating or facilitating trafficking networks, a charge Venezuelan officials denied. Watch this.
When you come out and when you leave the room, you'll see that we just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat. And you'll be seeing that and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago, and our great general, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's been so incredible, including what took place in Iran, knocking out potential nuclear power for a long time to come. I think within a month they would have had it if we didn't do what we did. But he gave us a little bit of a briefing. And you'll see, and there's more where that came from. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time, and we just, these came out of Venezuela and coming out very heavily from Venezuela. A lot of things are coming out of Venezuela, so we took it out, and you'll get to see that after this meeting is over. Do you have any questions, please?
A Fulton County Superior Court judge has ordered District Attorney Fani Willis to conduct a new, more comprehensive search for records tied to her election interference case against President Donald Trump, finding her office's prior methods inadequate. The ruling comes in a Judicial Watch open records lawsuit seeking communications between Willis's team and the House January 6 committee, as well as former special counsel Jack Smith's office. The judge said Willis's affidavit failed to address searches of key devices used by former special prosecutor Nathan Wade and Chief Inspector Michael Hill, and directed Willis to report back within 14 days detailing her search protocols. In March of 2025, the court compelled Willis to produce 212 pages of records that her office initially denied existed. Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton said his group is pursuing evidence of collusion and collaboration with federal officials, arguing any such contacts undermine the independence of Willis's probe. The Willis's office was previously ordered in January to pay roughly $22,000 in legal fees for incomplete response to records requests. Willis's charged President Trump and 18 co-defendants in August of 2023 under Georgia's racketeering law, though the case was later narrowed by plea deals and dismissed counts. The Georgia Court of Appeals has since disqualified Willis over her past relationship with Wade, leaving the prosecution shelved indefinitely. South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson has asked the U.S. Supreme Court to pause a Fourth Circuit order that lets a transgender high school student use boys' bathrooms, arguing it conflicts with a 2024 state law requiring school facilities based on biological sex. Wilson said the case is about protecting students' privacy and safety and called it a potential death knell for a radical hard left agenda. In an emergency filing, the state said the Berkeley County School District is stuck between the appeals court directive and state law, which threatens districts that don't comply with a loss of up to 25% of state education funding. The Fourth Circuit relied on its 2020 Grimmer versus Gloster precedent filing. A similar ban violated Title IX in equal protection. South Carolina says Grimm is an outdated outliner. The state urges the court to read Title IX as biological sex-based and to treat it recent decision in United States versus Scrimmerter upholding Tennessee's ban on gender transition proceedings for minors. As support for state authority to set biological rooted policies in schools. The Trump administration's education department also reverted Title IX guidance in January to biological sex, reversing a 2024 rule that had extended protections to gender identity. Lawyers for the student identified as John Doe said there's zero evidence his restroom use harms anyone and called the state's request an extraordinary bid to block one ninth grader while the case proceeds. The Supreme Court could act on the emergency application without full briefing or argument. Let's take a look.
The teen, who is referred to as John Doe, filed a lawsuit against South Carolina, the state's Board of Education, the Department of Education, and the Berkeley County School District over the rule that banned transgender students from using the restrooms that match their gender identities. Attorney General Alan Wilson says this injunction was filed one day before school began and only applies to this one student. Wilson claims the ruling endangers other children, and in siding with this one student, the Fourth Circuit Court is an outlier.
President Donald Trump said Tuesday the U.S. Space Command headquarters will relocate from Colorado Springs, Colorado, to Huntsville, Alabama, ending a year-long tussle between the two states. Space Command has operated from Peterson Space Force Base since 2019. President Joe Biden decided in 2023 to keep it in Colorado. Trump touted the move as an economic and strategic win, predicting more than 30,000 jobs in Alabama and linking the command's Huntsville mission to its Golden Dome missile defense effort. The White House did not immediately comment. A live stream description for Trump's announcement briefly referenced Space Command before being edited. Backers of Colorado argue a relocation will be costly given investments in Peterson. An Air Force review in 2021 found Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville the ideal site, and a Pentagon Inspector General report in April said it could not identify why Colorado was chosen over Alabama. Space Command joins an established North Alabama space ecosystem that includes NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center and the Army's Space and Missile Defense Command. Specific timelines and costs for the move were not provided. Watch this.
And I am thrilled to report that the U.S. Space Command headquarters will move to the beautiful locale of a place called Huntsville, Alabama, forever to be known from this point forward as Rocket City. Okay, so Huntsville, Alabama, we love Alabama. I only won it by about 47 points. I don't think that influenced my decision, though, right? That didn't, right? But we had a lot of competition for this, and Alabama's getting it, Huntsville in particular. So congratulations, everybody. Katie, congratulations. This will result in more than 30,000 Alabama jobs and probably much more than that, and hundreds of millions of dollars of investment, and that's billions because it can't be millions, it's billions and billions of dollars. Most importantly, this decision will help America defend and dominate the high frontier, as they call it. I want to thank Secretary Pete Hegseth. He's doing a fantastic job. And Secretary of the Air Force, Troy Mink. Troy, thank you very much. Great job you're doing, Troy.
The news will be back after this break.
What the president is doing is changing 40 years of a failed bipartisan consensus in Washington, D.C. that has sold out American workers and destroyed the underlying economic strength of the United States of America.
They are just raking in the wins one after another, whether it's restructuring global trade and getting other countries to pay us, passing the One Big Beautiful Bill, and the massive tax incentives there for investing in America, the most aggressive deregulatory campaign in history, and an energy abundance agenda that's brought down gas prices and energy prices for ordinary families.
He has told companies around the world that America is open for business. This is more money coming into your community. This is your hometown where you grew up that has been shuttered because globalists have sold you out, reviving again. Factories where your neighbors are having good paying jobs, where more money is going back into your pockets. And every time you go to the store to purchase a product, you're no longer seeing made in China on the back. You are seeing made in America on the back. That's President Trump's vision.
The policies are working. Business investment is skyrocketing. Jobs are skyrocketing. Inflation's going down. It's exactly as we said.
They think that we could see a take-home increase of anywhere from $85,000 to almost $15,000 if you're a typical family with 2 kids.
Inflation is coming under control, and blue-collar wages are rising faster than they have risen in 60 years. That is a testament to great presidential leadership and the great American people.
The president is smashing open all the world's markets. Our ranchers, our fishermen, our farmers, our entrepreneurs and our businesses can finally sell into Europe. All these countries.
It's the blue-collar boom. The Trump administration celebrating a massive growth in wages for working-class Americans.
This is what he was given a mandate to do. He is the president of the American worker.
Blue-collar wage growth, the only other time it's been this high, wait for it, was during President Trump's first term. No president has done that before.
Welcome back. A federal appeals court lifted an injunction that had barred the Environmental Protection Agency from halting $16 billion in climate grants, ruling the D.C. District Court abused its discretion. The D.C. Circuit said the nonprofit's claims are essentially contractual, belonging in the Court of Federal Claims, and found their constitutional claims meritless, adding the equities favor government oversight. The dispute centers on grants awarded late in the prior administration to 5 groups. This include Climate United Fund, Coalition for Green Capital, Power Forward Communities, Inclusive, and Justice Climate Fund. Judge Naomi Rayos' opinion noted EPA records showing last-minute grants tweaks to make it more difficult to terminate, and an employee's description of pushing out money in, quote, like throwing gold bars off the Titanic. EPA held the decision, saying it has a duty to police self-dealings, conflicts of interest, and reduce oversight. Administrator Lee Zeldin said has paired the grant review with broader agency cuts as part of the White House spending retrenchment. Climate Fund called the ruling disappointing and insisted EPA unlawfully froze and canceled obligated funds, vowing to continue its challenge. The decision permits the nonprofit to appeal. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the administration is considering declaring a national housing emergency as soon as this fall to tackle high prices and tight supply. He noted federal rate cuts could help, but the White House is also weighing executive steps to boost building and cut costs. Bessent said officials are evaluating ways to standardize local building and zoning codes and reduce closing costs, while trying not to trample state and local control. Everything is on the table, he told the Washington Examiner. He added the administration may carve out tariff exemptions for key construction inputs to lower costs. Lumber and drywall were signaled out, with lumber costs volatile amid new trade measures. Homebuilders says input prices are rising. Frame lumber is up 5.8% year over year, and lumber futures 19.1% higher. In June, Commerce more than doubled countervailing duties on Canadian softwood to 14.63%. And with 20.6% anti-dumping duty, the total effect rate is about 35.2%, up from 14.4%, according to the NAHB. Watch this.
According to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he told the Washington Examiner that such a move would be part of the Republicans' midterm strategy to focus on housing affordability. Bessent added GOP leaders are trying to figure out their strategy, but the federal government doesn't want to, quote, step into the business of states, counties, and municipal governments. Some housing issues Bessent suggested might be addressed include standardizing building codes and lowering closing costs. Washington's housing market is showing a rise in availability, with active listings up significantly year over year. And while overall prices have remained pretty stable, inventory levels are reaching their highest peak this summer. As of July 31st, the state had more than 28,000 homes available for sale. That according to Seattle-based Zillow, which shows nearly 2,700 available homes in the Emerald City. In Tacoma and Bellingham, those numbers are much smaller, in the hundreds. On the other side of the state, in Spokane, more than 1,200.
Nestle removed CEO Laurent Freixe after an internal investigation found he had a romantic relationship with a direct subordinate in violation of the company's code of business conduct. The company said Freixe will depart without an exit package. Chairman Paul Buckle and lead independent director Pablo Isla oversaw the probe. And quote, "This was a necessary decision. Nestle values and governance are strong foundations of our company," end quote, Buckle said, thanking Freixe for his years of service. The board appointed Philip Navratil as CEO, praising his results in challenging environments and collaborative, inclusive leadership. Buckle said Nestle would not change strategy and expects Navratil to accelerate growth and efficiency efforts. Navratil joined Nestle in 2021, held roles in Central America, and led coffee and beverages in Mexico, later helping shape global coffee strategy. He moved to Nespresso in 2024 and joined the executive board in January of 2025. In quote, "I fully embrace the company's strategic direction," he said. Let's take a look.
Nestlé investors were pitched back into choppy waters on Tuesday. The Swiss food giant ousted its CEO Laurent Freixe over an affair he had with a subordinate. The company's shares opened down over 3% following Freixe's sudden dismissal on Monday. It's another blow for Nestlé investors who have been frustrated with 3 years of share price declines and no signs of a recovery this year. Freixe will be replaced by Philip Navratil. He's a rising star at the maker of Nescafé coffee and Kit Kat bars. The dismissal of Freixe follows an investigation into an undisclosed romantic relationship with a direct subordinate. Nestlé said it breached its code of business conduct. Freixe spent 39 years with Nestlé and just a year as its CEO. Now he will receive no exit package following his departure, the company told Reuters. Nestlé's shares, a bedrock of the Swiss stock exchange, have lost almost a third of their value over the past 5 years. Freixe's appointment failed to halt the slide, with the company's shares shedding 17% during his leadership. The dismissal was featured on the front page of Swiss newspapers, with one noting that Nestlé had lost its legendary stability, where CEOs stayed for years before eventually becoming chairman.
The news continues after this break. Stay with us.
Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project is all about making sure the voice of our man of God, Pastor Chris Oyakhilome, arrives exactly when someone needs it the most. It's a global campaign to saturate the world with the gospel of our Lord Jesus like never before.
The gospel is going to go into places that it never was before, into disciplines and areas that it never was before, and establish a higher way.
Make a global impact today with your sponsorship of Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project. For every home you sponsor, you send the gospel where it's never gone. You become the reason someone receives life, a second chance, and finds Jesus. Through the dynamic Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project, we've been able to expand our global mission, touching more souls, more regions, and producing a wave of powerful testimonies from people whose lives have been forever changed. Your financial support as a Loveworld USA partner is not just generous, it's supernatural power for global impact. Let's keep sending the gospel into every home through the Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project. Sign up today and sponsor any of the following categories.
It's time for you to give the right sacrifice, the right seed, because it's time for you to get the right harvest.
You can sponsor Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project by calling or going on our website now. Sign up to be Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project partner today. God bless you.
Welcome back. Burkina Faso's unelected transitional parliament has passed a bill outlawing homosexual acts, approving penalties of 2 to 5 years in prison plus fines. Justice Minister Ariso Rodriguez Bayela said the measure adopted unanimously on Monday would also allow for the deportation of foreign nationals convicted under the law. The legislation now goes to military lead captain Ibrahim Touré for signature. Touré has ruled since a 2022 coup that ousted Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Damiba. The Shell national had previously been among 22 of Africa's 54 countries that did not criminalize same-sex relations. After independence from France in 1960, Burkina Faso did not inherit anti-homosexuality statutes, unlike many former British colonies. The move aligns Burkina Faso with a broader regional crackdown. Neighboring Mali recently adopted similar criminal provisions, while Uganda enacted one of the continent's toughest laws. Nigeria enforces bans, and Ghana's parliament approved a bill that was not signed by the then president. The World Bank briefly halted lending to Uganda over its ban before lifting the ban. Let's take a look.
Unanimously adopted by 71 unelected members of a transitional parliament in place since the two coups in 2022 in the West African nation. And according to the officials, the law is part of a wider reform of family and citizenship legislation, and it will be popularized through an awareness campaign. Now, the country's Justice Minister, Idaso Rodriguez Bayala, has said, and I quote, the law provides for a prison sentence of anywhere from 2 and 5 years as well as fines. If a person is a perpetrator of homosexual or similar practices, then all the bizarre behavior, they will go before the judge. Homosexuality is illegal in nearly about 30 different African nations, but was not banned in Burkina Faso before the military seized power 3 years ago. Now, Mali, an ally of Burkina Faso and also ruled by a junta, adopted a law criminalizing homosexuality in November 2024. Now, Ghana and Uganda have also toughened their anti-homosexuality law in recent years, getting huge amount of criticism.
Rescue teams and villagers are digging through rubble by hand after a powerful 6-point magnitude earthquake levied homes across eastern Afghanistan on Sunday night, with Taliban officials Tuesday saying at least over 1,400 people were killed and more than 3,000 injured. Figures they warned could rise. The worst damage is in mountainous Kunar Province, where mud, brick, and timber houses collapsed while families slept. Rough terrain and blocked roads have slowed relief, forcing authorities to airdrop commandos to evacuate the wounded from hamlets where helicopters can't land. Aid workers with Save the Children said one team hiked more than 12 miles or 19 kilometers carrying medical kits to cut off villages. A 5.2 aftershock rattled the area Tuesday, the U.S. Geological Survey reported. UN officials called it a race against time, cautioning that casualty numbers may increase as rescuers reach remote valleys. The disaster strikes a country already reeling from aid cuts, a battered economy, and mass return of Afghanis from Iran and Pakistan. More than 420 health facilities nationwide have shut or suspended services due to funding shortfalls. 80 of them in the quake-hit East, leaving remaining clinics overwhelmed, the UN said. International assistance is trickling in. The UK pledged £1 million. That's about $1.3 million via humanitarian agencies. The EU is sending 130 tons of supplies and €1 million. The UAE and India and China also promised support. Afghanistan's Taliban authorities are seeking broader aid despite limited international recognition, have set up a logistics camp in Kunar and 2 hubs to coordinate evacuations, burials, and search and rescue. Watch this.
Well, the Taliban is calling for help from abroad after a massive earthquake killed hundreds of people and leveled entire villages in Afghanistan. At least 1,400 people are dead and more than 3,000 others hurt when the 6.0 magnitude quake struck the country's eastern region. Heavy rain, landslides, and damaged roads are making it difficult for relief teams to get to the remote mountainous areas that are hit the hardest.
Just before we end the news, a quick look at tomorrow's weather forecast. And to end the news today, a quick recap of the headlines. U.S. military hits Venezuelan drug boat in southern Caribbean, president says. Georgia judge orders Fannie Willis to redo Trump case record search after inadequate methods found. South Carolina asked Supreme Court to hold ruling allowing transgender student boys' bathroom access. Space Command headquarters moved to Alabama, reversing 2023 decision to keep it in Colorado. Appeals court clears EPA to freeze $16 billion in climate grants, rebukes lower court. And that's the news for today. Join us at the same time tomorrow for more news. I'm Barbara Sam. Good night. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.